Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really getting into something huge, artificial intelligence.
But not just the tech specs, right? We're looking at how it's hitting our culture, what it means for us, for being human.
Exactly. And we're using a really fascinating guide, Tatyana Chernigovskaya. She's a top neurolinguist.
Yeah, her background's amazing. Neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, it all comes together. It gives her this really unique angle on intelligence that goes way beyond just, computation.
Which feels so necessary right now, doesn't it? With AI developing so fast, her perspective feels crucial.
Definitely. We've got this detailed report here breaking down her main ideas from a recent transcript. It's like our roadmap for today.
Right. So our mission, unpack Chernigovskaya's view on how human and AI smarts are fundamentally different.
Explore her worries. And they're significant about AI's effect on, everything from language to how we think.
And understand her big call to action about education and sort of doubling down on human values. We want to pull out the absolute key insights from this material for you.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so right at the heart of her argument, she says there's a real, internal difference between us and AI.
Yes, exactly. A fundamental gap. It's not just that AI isn't there yet. She sees it as qualitatively distinct.
And human intelligence for her is, it's messy, isn't it? Super complex.
Totally. Not just information processing. It's tangled up with consciousness, feelings, the unconscious, all of it.
She really zooms in on consciousness and the unconscious, you said.
Absolutely. Key differentiators. Consciousness gives us that subjective feeling, self-awareness, real understanding. She even calls it a very strange thing, maybe something we'll never fully get.
And she's pretty direct. AI has no consciousness. Full stop.
Full stop. And then the unconscious, she sees that as this, powerhouse for human thinking.
Where intuition comes from. Creativity.
Yeah, and how we handle fuzzy situations where pure logic fails. She says, the unconscious is a very powerful thing, a huge part of our intelligence. AI just doesn't have that layer, she argues.
So AI is basically a sophisticated tool. It mimics understanding.
That's her take. An amazing tool, yes. Processes data like crazy, spots patterns, but it simulates understanding. It doesn't have it, not in the human sense.
It runs on algorithms, reflects its training data.
Right. No subjective experience, no feelings driving it. The output isn't original thought born from some inner world.
And that quote from the source is key. AI doesn't understand context. It only processes data. That feels critical.
It really is. Context is everything for human understanding, and then there's the ethical piece.
Ah, right. She says human intelligence gets what is good and what is bad.
Yeah, that innate moral compass, however flawed or varied it might be, AI lacks that dimension entirely.
Wow. So, okay, the big takeaway here is no consciousness, no unconscious, no moral sense. For Chernigovskaya, these aren't just missing software updates for AI.
No, they're fundamental differences, bedrock distinctions.
The human factor is all that stuff beyond computation.
Exactly. Subjective experience, intuition from the unconscious, moral reasoning. That's where she roots it.
So this throws some cold water on the idea of just scaling up AI to reach human-level general intelligence, doesn't it?
It really does. If these non-algorithmic things are essential, maybe building true AI needs something completely different. Or maybe it's impossible.
It definitely pushes back against viewing intelligence as just, data and processing power.
Yeah, she champions the uniqueness of human intellect, the non-algorithmic, the fuzzy, the maybe even non-deterministic parts, things that are incredibly hard to replicate computationally.
What about that black box idea? Both AI and human minds have parts that we don't fully get.
Right, but she argues the nature of those black boxes is different. The AI one is theoretically algorithmic, complex, but potentially mappable.
But the human unconscious.
She presents it as possibly non-algorithmic, maybe even touching on something beyond the purely physical. That's where her deep background comes in, raising questions about mind, brain, and thought itself. It suggests a philosophical gulf.
Which has huge implications for AI safety and ethics then.
Totally. Just making AI transparent might miss the point if it still lacks the core stuff needed for human-like ethical judgment or real understanding.
Consciousness, the unconscious morality.
Exactly. That table in the source comparing human versus AI on these points, consciousness, unconscious, understanding, creativity, moral sense, it's stark. Present versus absent. It highlights this fundamental difference in their operating systems, if you like.
Okay, so if AI is fundamentally different, lacking these core human elements, what happens when we start integrating it everywhere? This is where Chernigovskaya gets really concerned.
Yeah. deeply concerned about what all this convenience is doing to us, to our thinking, our culture.
And language is a big one for her. The simplification.
Huge. She sees a degradation, especially in younger people, linked to digital communication, emojis, quick summaries, and AI interfaces are part of that now.
She thinks relying on simpler language makes us think less complexly.
Precisely. Loss of nuance, loss of abstract thinking. For her, language isn't just how we talk, it's how we think. It shapes consciousness. So, dumbing down language literally dumbs down our thinking.
Those quotes are powerful. Language becomes very simple. This is very bad. And people are losing the ability to speak, to think in complex sentences. It's a feedback loop she's describing.
A worrying one, and it connects directly to her concerns about critical thinking.
Because AI gives us instant answers. We don't have to struggle with problems.
Exactly. We outsource the cognitive effort. Instead of digging deep, analyzing, checking facts, we just ask the AI.
And that reliance weakens our own mental muscles for independent thought, for problem solving.
That's the warning. We could end up with a generation that struggles with complexity, nuance, telling truth from, sophisticated algorithmic fiction. She talks about developing a search engine brain.
Just retrieving, not really thinking. Like those quotes, people no longer think. They just ask the AI, or they don't need to learn anything, the AI will do it for them. It sounds so passive.
It does, and she links it to memory, too. If information is always instantly available externally...
Why bother remembering it internally?
Right, the brain might just deprioritize deep encoding and internal knowledge building, leading to superficial understanding.
Is knowledge just knowing the prompt now, instead of knowing the thing?
Her question nails it. Why should I remember anything if the AI will remember everything for me? It captures that potential shift.
And it goes beyond just cognition. She also worries about identity, social interaction.
Yeah, that relying too much on AI for interaction could erode uniquely human connection, empathy, reading subtle cues.
The stuff that algorithms aren't great at. We might favor efficiency over genuine, messy human connection.
That's the fear, a more superficial, maybe less empathetic society.
So, summing up this part, AI convenience seems great, but she sees a direct link to potentially reduced critical thinking, weaker memory.
Yes, the paradox of convenience. Tools meant to help could actually lead to cognitive atrophy if we're not careful. And she sees it systemically, not just as individual laziness, like an evolutionary nudge towards external dependence.
And that link between language simplification and thought simplification. Wow. If language structures thought,
then degrading language risks degrading the richness of human consciousness itself.
So the line blurs not because AI gets more human, but because we might become less complex.
That's the unsettling possibility she raises, a really challenging thought.
Okay, so if AI is different and its use is maybe changing us cognitively and culturally, what are the big ethical, almost existential questions she raises?
Yeah, this gets into some really fundamental territory, like human free will.
How so? A threat to free will.
Her concern is, as AI gets better at making optimal decisions based on data, we might just stop choosing for ourselves.
We disengage from the messy moral complexity of making choices.
Yeah, because the AI offers an easier data-backed path. We risk losing that core part of autonomy, that muscle for independent moral judgment. Will we just become passive followers of algorithms?
The question hits hard. If AI will make all decisions for us, what will we do? It suggests a loss of agency, maybe even purpose.
Which connects to redefining human value. If AI does all the smart stuff, what's left for us? What makes us uniquely valuable?
And she points back to consciousness, creativity, empathy, moral judgment.
Exactly. Those non-algorithmic qualities. The danger is we start devaluing those in favor of AI's efficiency.
And then there's the massive practical problem.
Yeah.
Who's responsible when AI messes up?
Right. AI can't be morally responsible, it lacks consciousness, understanding, so the burden falls on us creators, users, but the complexity makes it really hard to pin down accountability.
Who is responsible if AI makes a mistake or does something bad? That question hangs in the air.
It really does. And underlying it all is this deeper fear she has of human degradation, of us becoming more machine-like.
Not just losing skills, but changing our actual nature.
Yeah. Losing empathy, intuition, the richness of complex social and emotional life. She warns against chasing efficiency if the cost is our flourishing, our humanness.
That quote is chilling. We're becoming more like machines, losing our human qualities. It's a stark warning.
So, yeah, her ethical worries really center on this potential loss of human control, agency, and maybe even essence.
The threat isn't necessarily killer robots, but this slow, quiet handover of control to algorithms,
Exactly. Sidelining our messy, complex human decision making for optimized efficiency.
which erodes freedom and self-determination bit by bit.
And the ethical dilemma isn't just the harm AI might do, but the human capacities it might prevent us from exercising moral reasoning, character development through tough choices, real autonomy.
That idea of a Faustian bargain, trading free will for comfort, that's heavy.
It is. And the responsibility gap means we urgently need new legal and ethical frameworks. Otherwise, we face this irresponsible power, leading to consequences without clear accountability, which could just shatter trust.
Okay, so given all these potential dangers and deep questions, what's the path forward, according to Chernigovskaya? How do we handle this?
Well, her biggest push is for a massive overhaul of education.
Because the current system isn't cutting it. Too focused on stuff AI can do.
Exactly. Rote learning, easily automated skills, that's not the future. She argues we need a radical shift towards developing creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, thinking across disciplines.
The stuff AI can't do, cultivating the human factor.
Oh, precisely. She's very direct. Our education system is not ready for this. We need to change it. It's an urgent call.
And a huge part of that change is teaching critical thinking and, information literacy.
Absolutely essential, she says. Especially with AI generating so much content, we have to be able to evaluate sources, spot manipulation, resist just passively accepting what algorithms feed us.
Cultivate skepticism, independent judgment.
Yes. Instead of just defaulting to asking the AI, she ties it back. People no longer think. They just ask the AI. We need to teach them to think. It's about reactivating those cognitive skills.
And it's also about consciously valuing and developing what makes us uniquely human.
Yes. Our future isn't competing with AI on speed or data. It's leaning into consciousness, intuition, empathy, moral reasoning, real creativity, making meaning.
So more emphasis on arts, humanities, philosophy, complex social skills.
Things that nurture those unique human capacities.
And implicitly, this also means protecting and enriching language, right?
Yeah.
Since it's tied to thought.
Definitely. Countering simplification, encouraging deep reading, complex writing, thoughtful conversation, it's all part of building that cognitive resilience.
So her core message on the way forward. Education reform isn't just about jobs. It's about preserving our humanity.
Yes, it's the main defense against cognitive decline and the erosion of free will, she fears.
Shifting focus from what kids learn to how they learn to think critically, creatively, ethically, and exploring what it means to be human.
It demands a total rethink of education's purpose, away from the factory model towards nurturing that unique human factor.
Our future intellectual and moral independence basically depends on getting this right.
That seems to be her view. Fail here, and that slide towards degradation looks much more likely.
So things like humanities and critical thinking aren't optional extras anymore. They're essential for survival, in a way.
An existential necessity for human flourishing. And that idea of teaching people to think instead of just asking AI, it feels like an ethical duty.
Like cognitive resistance,
Yeah.
choosing to do the mental work even when there's an easier way.
Exactly. Maintaining intellectual integrity requires that active engagement, questioning, building internal understanding. It makes our relationship with AI a moral choice, not just a technical one.
That table summarizing the challenges and responses really drives it home.
Hmm.
Fight language simplification with complexity. Fight critical thinking erosion with education. Fight memory loss by valuing internal knowledge. Fight identity loss by cultivating human uniqueness. Address the responsibility gap with new frameworks. It's a call to conscious action.
Absolutely. Chernigovskaya's overall message is, well, it's profound, isn't it? Humanity's at a real turning point.
Yeah, and the future isn't set in stone by the tech. It's about the choices we make.
How we develop AI, how we integrate it, and maybe most importantly, how we choose to protect and nurture what makes us human.
AI is a tool, an incredibly powerful one, but her work insists the human mind with all its complexity, consciousness, moral sense, has to stay in charge.
Her perspective is like a compass, really, urging us to pick a path that enhances us, not diminishes us, as this tech races forward.
Which means actively valuing human qualities, transforming education, and constantly asking the hard ethical questions.
Making sure the tools serve us, serve human flourishing without accidentally undermining our foundation.
Which leaves us, and you, with a final thought to chew on. Chernigovskaya links AI convenience directly to potential cognitive decline.
So the question is, Are you willing to trade the effort of deep thinking, of remembering, of grappling with messy nuance for the ease of an algorithmic answer?
And what might the long-term cost of that trade-off be for your own ability to think deeply, judge independently, and embody those unique human qualities she talked about? Something to really consider.